What's up, Eagles Nation? What's going on, NFL world? What's going on to all of our division rivals? This is Steven Hyder with Gate City Sports Channel, the sports channel where the cerebral NFL fan comes for about 10 minutes of daily content. All right, guys, I have covered every which angle of this NFL trade deadline for the Eagles in terms of players that could be available, guys that have been mentioned, what I think the probability are of some of these players being traded. But there is one angle that I don't think a lot of us Eagle fans have really been covering extensively. We've whispered it, we've mentioned it in passing, but I'm not too sure many of us have made entire videos dedicated to the proposition of it. And that proposition is, should the Eagles actually be sellers? A lot of us mentioned that if we lost to Buffalo, maybe we start selling off pieces. But here's the deal. I'm not saying that we need to sell away anyone who's contributing in a major fashion to the season right now, but couldn't we all agree at this point the prices that are being paid by teams for players this trade deadline are a lot higher than people anticipated? Look, the trade the Eagles made yesterday, okay, to go get a young pass rusher in Genard Avery. Look, this is a guy that, as I've learned more about him and I've watched more film, and I've got a chance to really get to know this kid as a prospect. Admittedly, I think this kid has potential, but this isn't a known commodity. This is projection more than anything. And this kid warranted a fourth round pick. I mean, that's pretty damn good value. Now, mind you, that's not from the 2020 draft, it's from the 2021 draft. But with that said, if Genard Avery can garner value fourth round value, what would Big V garner in terms of value? What would Sidney Jones or Rasul Douglas? What would a guy on an expiring expensive ass contract but has speed, has ability, just sucks at tracking the football? But other teams are going to think they're smarter than the Eagles and can utilize them. What would Nelson Aguilar get you? Because I'm going to be honest, maybe we should be considering selling some of these guys that are not making major contributions. And I know that point's a little argumentative when we talk about Nelson Aguilar because clearly he is contributing right now. He's contributing greatly to our misery, but still, he's contributing. Um, with that said, I mean, can we really rule out this prospect of Big V? I mean, I like him. I'm hesitant to give him away, but at the same time, does Big V has a designated starting role in this team in the next 2 years that we can feel confident in saying? I think that he's got the potential if he really wants to stick around and just be an Eagle. He could definitely be that guard tackle swing guy that is the first man up as soon as anyone goes down at the guard or tackle position. But that's not starting, and Big V was a starter at left tackle during the Super Bowl run. He took over for an injured Jason Peters. There are teams out there that need offensive line help desperately. And I'm here to tell you, if Genard Avery can warrant a fourth round pick in 2021, what if we push the prospect of, look, we'll let you slide in the 2020 draft. We want compensation in 2021. You don't think Big V could warrant a third round pick? I'll be honest with you. I think at minimum you can get a guaranteed fourth round pick in 2021 with the possibility of certain levels of contributions from Big V from this particular team, whether it's predicated on his actual production for this team and games started or whatever, or snap count, to just simply if Big V were to then sign with said team that we trade him to for a long-term contract, then that would warrant us another conditional pick. So a fourth round pick that can turn into a third round pick, maybe a third round pick that can turn into a second round pick. I would have to consider a guy like that. I would have to consider a move like that if I'm the Eagles. Because as I'm really looking around with the Mohamed Sanu to New England for a second rounder, look, there's not many times I will accuse the New England Patriots front office and its coaching of being fleeced. You got fleeced. No way in hell you should have paid that for Mohamed Sanu. That's not good. Especially when you got a guy there in Jakobi Meyers who's just as good at this point, even though he's a rookie free agent. He's faster. He's probably got better hands than Sanu. The only difference is that Sanu has the experience of running every route tree and understanding it. He's been in the league for so long. But I don't know that, I mean, You guys personally, let me flip it on you. Would you have paid a second round for Mohamed Sanu? Would you have given up that kind of value? Me, hell no. Hell to the no. Um, Aguilar. I mean, yeah, Aguilar was a former first round pick and all that, but I mean, if you could get a fourth or a fifth for Aguilar at this point, you're going to lose him next year anyways. I mean, I guess we have to look and see what the would we receive compensation, because obviously if you and I don't know that, guys, I didn't really look to see what the compensatory status would be of a guy like um, Nelson Aguilar, because then that's going to set and determine the market for a trade. Obviously, you're not going to trade him away for less than you would get from compensation, a compensatory pick for that. So with that said, what would you do? You wouldn't trade him at this point? I mean, if DeSean Jackson's coming back, if we can make a play in the wide receiver market, hell, if we can sign a guy off the street to come in and replace that productivity, or just bring someone up. I mean, are we really that much worse off without Nelson Aguilar? I like Nelson. I think Nelson's a lot better than Greg Ward Jr. and some of those other guys. I mean, I'm not coming out here and saying that, guys, but at the same time, are we really losing that much in productivity? I mean, honestly, like the guy can't track the deep ball, so he's not stretching the field for us. Sure, he can catch the intermediate short stuff. Sure, he can take an end around, but I think Greg Ward Jr. can do all that as well. I mean, he might not be quite as good at Nelson Aguilar doing that at this point in his career, but at the same time, like, how much have we lost by making such a move? Sidney Jones. Look, man, when LeBlanc comes back, when Maddox comes back, what is Sidney Jones's role in this team at this point? His role is called bust. I have given Sidney Jones a lot of opportunity. I just recently jumped on the bus of, okay, he's got to go. So why not try to move him to someone who thinks they're smarter than us? And I'll admit, I think if you simplify things for Sidney Jones and you put him in a system where he's going to play primarily a man responsibility, he just needs to use his speed and his athleticism to stay in front of somebody or stay with somebody in their hip pocket, I think he's fine. The minute you start asking Sidney Jones to read and react and to diagnose route trees and to diagnose schematics and understand the personnel packages the teams are in and the route trees they like, then you're screwed. That kid does not have the ability to do that. He's not a zone guy. But there are teams out there that don't use zone as much as Philly. So maybe there's someone out there that thinks they're smarter than us. I mean, anything in return for Sidney Jones at this point, fifth, sixth rounder, fourth round, whatever you got. I mean, someone gives us a fourth rounder for Sidney Jones, Howie Roseman, you better be fucking pulling the trigger right now. But I would still consider fifth rounder below for him at this point. I think I'd be a little more bullish on a player like Rasul Douglas, because I honestly do think that if Rasul Douglas is put in the right situation, he will thrive. He doesn't have elite top end speed. With that said, most of the plays that Rasul Douglas has been beat on this year really wasn't even his fault. He was, you could say that he gave a step or two, but at the same time, he didn't have the inside responsibility in most of those plays. That was the fault of the safeties not being where they were supposed to be. He had outside containment. So if I was the Eagles, you have to analyze this roster and how you make it better. I mean, if you can sell off pieces, because now you got Darby back. The only argument I think you could make about Rasul Douglas is he's probably a guy that would be here for next year. So I think you have to actually get something substantial back in return. I wouldn't let him go for anything short of a fourth. I'd have to think that that's where you start listening. It's probably got to be a third or above for Rasul Douglas, to be honest. But with that said, like, man, these purchasing prices are high right now, guys. I mean, people are paying ridiculous sums for players that are past their primes, middling, talent levels, not the greatest. I mean, I don't know, guys. I get the feeling, man, we got a few hours left in this thing, guys. Maybe the Eagles should look into this, guys. I'm just saying, what are your thoughts on being sellers? I'm not talking about selling off Alshon Jeffrey. I'm not talking about selling off DeSean Jackson. I'm talking about selling off any of the, big pieces we have. I'm talking about role player pieces, guys that are playing more of a backup role. Would you sell? I mean, look at what some of these guys are getting sold out for. I got to tell you, man, I'm considering anything on Big V, anything on Rasul Douglas, and anything on Sidney Jones, and anything on Nelson Aguilar. If there are teams that think they're smarter than us, maybe they are. Let them have at it. All right, that's my 2 cents, man. Tell me what y'all think. Tell me what would you be sellers? Do you think I'm crazy? Put it out there, guys. All right, y'all. Peace. I'm out of here. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And oh, yeah. EAGLES. Maybe we should sell, guys. I don't know.